Right, let's get down to business, folks. Today's episode will be all about dealing with clients, and we'll touch on the many different tentacles that octopus has. Yeah, I don't know why I said that. Yeah. But like, there's a lot to go through here. Dealing with clients is a big topic. Let me just have some of my coffee. Yeah, so today's episode...
Oh, wait, we've got a helicopter.
Oh, that's here to pick me up. I'm leaving soon, to be fair. That one went down like a lead balloon, didn't it?
Okay, let's start.
Cool. So today's episode is all about dealing with clients, ladies and gents.
Yeah.
So I'm going to kick things off. How would you say a good client relationship is built?
How it's built?
I'm going to say a good client relationship is built over time, firstly. Trust, like any relationship, but over time, and showing them that you can do the job well and you can rinse and repeat and do it several times well, and then they start to trust you and you trust them, that they communicate well, they pay on time, they, say what they do, what they're going to say they do. All of those things, I'd say that's how a good client relationship is built.
I think it comes naturally, but having the interest of the best interests of the client at heart, and if they feel like you have that, then anything that you do or suggest or whatever is kind of taken on board more so than if you was just like a random freelancer that they're working with for the first time. Yeah,
true. If they're impressed with the work you've done with them before, they're more likely. So, for example, I was doing a shoot on Wednesday last week, and I've worked with the client, the woman that works for this client, for years, like 4 or 5 years since I started out. But she knows, like, I suppose, what I can do in my skill set, and she trusts it. So therefore, she was like, right, what ideas do you have for this shoot? And like, what, like, kind of handing over the creative direction in a sense. So like, what do you think would look cool? I'm all ears. Whatever you think looks good, just go for it. And they're happy to give you the reins and kind of like take over a bit, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I think at the end of the day, you're the expert. Like, the client isn't a photographer. They might know a bit about it, but eventually they start to trust you and kind of allow you to exercise your expertise for them, compared to them telling you what to do at the beginning.
Which I think is important to remember for anyone like that's starting out in the game listening to this. Like, remember, you're being hired because you're the one that's skillful at that job.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like you can very easily become like really nervous or like, oh no, like what? But the client has hired you for that job because of your skill set, because they like what you can do. So like, back yourself. They're not the expert in this. They'll know what they want, and that's slightly different, but you're the one that has the vision and can put the, skills together to execute the job.
You have like the natural intuition for your own skill set.
Yeah.
Just over the course of time, they start off loading more of the responsibility onto you, because that's what you're there for. Yeah. Right?
Agreed.
Yeah.
So how, like, firstly, before we dive into this topic more, how do we gain new clients? Like, how would you go about gaining new clients? Like, obviously, it happens in a variety of ways. Word of mouth is a big one, and I still think it's the best.
Yeah.
And in whatever business you're in, I feel like word of mouth, coming on recommendation from someone they trust, is always a strong lead, business-wise, always. Obviously, Instagram, seeing your work around on socials, your website, if your website gets passed around, your portfolio, these are all ways to build new clients. But yeah, what would you say are the main ways you've gained new clients?
I would say the main way I've gained new clients is through referrals, through the network.
Yeah.
I think also, if you work with some clients, they end up naturally just knowing other people in their industry, and it's just so natural.
That has a knock-on effect.
Pass it on,
yeah.
You can also get kind of lost in that though, where that's the only way you end up getting new clients, because you're like, oh well, I'm so busy, and the work comes to you.
Yeah, and you don't reach out for it.
You can start getting into like I don't know, if someone stops the chain of like passing your finger on, then that's where it stops, and you go, oh,
yeah,
okay,
oh, I need to pull my finger out my ass, and do something. Yeah.
So other methods, obviously just doing good work, doing personal projects and marketing it, but also having like a social presence, I think super like integral.
We'll allow both.
Because the main thing you've got to consider is that you have to be in a place where your clients can find you. And if they can't find you, then they'll just go with someone else.
Yeah. How do they... I think it's having that instant view of your work. So they can type your profile in, have a look and be like, right, okay, that's what they're all about. And
Yeah.
they can see it instantly, as in seconds. They don't have to open up their laptop, go on the email, find the PDF you sent them, or like go on the website or type the website in or Google your name. They're probably already on Instagram. It's going to be there straight away for them all to see. It's like an instant view of your portfolio, isn't it?
Yeah. And you want those things in place as well beforehand, because you don't. It's almost like when you send an invoice, for example, you don't want to be figuring out how to make an invoice when you need one. And so you don't want to be figuring out how to post on social media or create like a website or all these things when the client is actually looking for you. You want all that stuff to be in place so that when they do find you, like they can go through the things that they need.
Yeah.
And they can make the decision for themselves. Because again, when a client reaches out to you, excuse me.
Sorry. Just clear my throat.
Yeah. When a client reaches out to you, they've already made the decision that you're good enough.
True. Yeah.
Otherwise, they wouldn't reach out. So, yeah, I think social presence is super important. And it doesn't even have to be anything to do with projects. Like it can be like behind the scenes, or it can just be like some frames or...
I'm always so mixed about posting behind the scenes on socials and stuff. And I think it looks good on Reels, but it's like still want my page to be my work, and that's what that is. And this is a whole nother podcast episode, but I'm just saying, if you're posting behind the scenes, it's showing the client that you can do the job on set and they can see it visually. You working with a client, the way you work the room, the way you move, like they can be like, oh, okay, this isn't just the final product that I'm seeing on his Instagram or her Instagram. This is, oh, they're actually in the room shooting, communicating with the talent, like, and they're seeing it live, and that's so helpful. Yeah,
and again, it goes back to just kind of being in a place where you're findable. Like by posting BTS, the client's probably not as concerned about like, oh, like it's just all of them on set, like where's the actual work? Like, I think you can post BTS and it'd be okay because they're just seeing that, oh, you're the person I'm looking for. And then obviously if they want to see your work, they can see it on social, but they can also go to your website. They just need something that shows like you're the person.
Not that we're experts at this, by the way. I just think
we're still figuring out as well, but that's what we...
That's just our opinions, and that's our 2 cents, I suppose. But I think at the end of the day, you know, if clients are coming to you through referral and stuff, you know, and gaining new clients, you need to be a nice person that gets on with people, and you produce the work and you like rinse and repeat that process, and you turn up, you show up, you do the deliverables on time, or you go out of your way and you make the extra effort. It's just good service, a good business. If you do that, tick, like you'll get referred eventually.
I think as well, even if your skills aren't like really up to par with what they need, you can develop your skills. Whereas, so if you've got two people and someone's really good at the job but they're a dickhead, and then you've got someone who's not quite as good, but like they're nice and they're reliable, and you know that you can trust them, then 9 times out of 10 they'll probably just go with the person that's good and reliable.
Now I just want to reinstate that, because I've heard that so many times in this industry over the last 6 years, of clients saying we'd rather work with someone that we get on with really well and is nice, even if their work isn't as good as XYZ that they could have hired, because they're dickheads. Like I've heard that so many times. So that just goes to show, like, being a good person, being a nice person, like having fun, like still taking your job seriously, obviously, but having fun, being a good person to be around makes the world of difference.
Well, because especially someone's attitude impacts the entire team. So if you're on set, but you're being a massive prick, then you bring the demeanor of the entire team down. Yeah, and the energy in the room just gets... And the energy in the room needs to be good, because if you're shooting someone important, they need to also be like...
Even if it's not someone important. If you're shooting someone, like, you know, your energy is dictates, like, them and the way they move and how they relax they are in front of camera and all of that kind of stuff. So if the energy in the room from the team is bad, it's going to have a knock-on effect and to the person that's also, like, in the room that you're photographing or videoing or whatever. Yeah. Great points there. Good. I like that. It's a good start. Okay. So we've talked about how we've gained new clients and what's important in that process. Have you ever lost clients?
I haven't lost clients on like a bad basis, but it's more so whether I've moved on or they've moved on, and we've just...
Clients come and go.
Yeah. Like, and I've had some...
They're like ships passing in a...
Yeah, some are little speedboats, some are like... Some are dinghies where they float past.
Some are dinghies. Some are like giant ferries with like crates and crates of
money
Yeah.
and work, and you'll be working with them for a long time.
I like that.
Yeah, like as an example, like I've got clients where in the past I've worked with them for 2 years. I've got other clients where I've worked with them just on 1 or 2 projects. You know, like where they'll come up and you do a project, you finish it, and then maybe a few months later they come back when they've got another one that suits you. And then I've got other clients where I've been working with them for like 3 years now.
Yeah, same. I was going to say, who's your oldest client? You don't have to name them if you don't want.
No.
Like,
So I can. Well,
who's your oldest client though? I'm trying to think of mine.
When you say oldest, you
as
mean
in
like the first
the,
one?
The one you've been as in who's the client you've been working with for the longest still to this day?
GQ.
GQ. It's not a bad client.
GQ magazine. Yeah.
I've got nothing on that. I'm like,
No.
Yeah, Ferrari.
Really?
Nike.
Oh my
No,
god.
I wish. Who's my oldest client? I don't know. I feel like there's people that I've been working with for a long time, but they've moved
And they take
brands,
you with them.
and they take me with them.
So that's good. That's still the same thing.
Yeah, that's good. But yeah, I'm not sure actually. I don't. Yeah, that's a really hard one off the top of my head. I'm not sure who my oldest client is. Do you know what I'm gonna say? Jamie and Jam.
Oh really?
The boys here. Well, yeah, I've been shooting with them for like 4 years, and I'm still working with them.
Okay, and now we have an office with them.
Yeah, but like it's and do you know what's really nice is that sometimes we can sit around a table or when we catch up and we can be like, "How do you remember that shoot?" Or like the boys in the office, I'm like, "Oh, do you remember that time we were in Turks and Caicos for a month on a private island working in paradise?" Those are some good memories, and like it's nice to reminisce on like old jobs together, and that's the beauty of when you've been with clients for a long time. You can like look back on that and you really build that trust and relationship and rapport. But yeah, I don't think I've ever lost a client on like a bad basis.
No,
ever. It's just you part ways. The things that you shoot as an artist changes, and the things that brands want to shoot changes, and it's not always going to line up with you.
Yeah, because you've got to think that you're running your business, but they're also running theirs, and odds are you're both kind of trying to progress. And I've had it in the past where, not with me, but I know some other clients where they'll want to move up their customer base, for example, which means that they need to charge more, and they have to let clients go that aren't willing to or aren't able to, pay a little bit more. Or
I've had some tricky clients, especially when I first started out, in terms of like,
oh Jesus Christ,
falling out and then like not. Like no money or like it just yeah. But I want to touch onto that because I feel like we both got some really good personal stories about that, and we won't name names, but like just to show you kind of like what it can be like. But before that, I want to go on talk about retaining clients.
Okay, so you mean just keeping them in general?
So yeah, I think there's two sides to this. So you could obviously keep a client for a long time, and that we've already touched on some of the points and the things you could do and you need to do in order to retain a client. Like they'll keep coming back to you if you do X, Y, Z, and we've already spoken on those points. But how would you try and, like we were literally just talking about it before we jumped on the podcast, how would you try and nail a client down on a monthly retainer? So these are things. So if a client is still hiring you repeatedly, like whether it's once a month or like once every other month, you could turn around and be like, look, like because as freelancers, we want some sustainable income. It's like the holy grail because your income can be so up, down, up, down, up, down. So if we can turn around and be like, look, I can offer you this package at this price and I'll work with you every month, then that is a way of retaining a client and like building that relationship greater, if that makes sense. Do you agree?
Oh, yeah. I didn't realise you was going to be ending your sentence there.
No, I need a coffee.
Yeah, so retaining clients, again, it's just like all in the relationship. Are we talking about retainer clients or retaining like
retainer? I feel like we've already touched on what it's like, what you need to do to retain a client. Basically, so here's a conversation I had with a client literally last week, and they're hiring me for shoots. This is a conversation me and Cameron literally had just before we jumped on this podcast. We can kind of discuss it now because it is about monthly retainers, I suppose.
Yeah, go on.
So I said to them, I was like, look, are you wanting to produce more shoots? So they were hiring me like once every 3-4 months probably. But I know the client, I've worked with them for a long, long time. And they mentioned that they just needed to up their content game. They just needed more photography. They needed more imagery with more of their athletes and that kind of stuff. And I was like, well, okay, well, how much are you like how many shoots are you wanting to do? Like I am open if you are to doing more shoots with you at a discounted rate. So would you be open to like a monthly retainer, or can I put a package together? And they were like, oh, 100%, like pitch something to us and we'd be more than happy to like hear what you've got to say, because we want to produce more photos. We want to put more stuff out on our socials. And at the moment, I was doing a shoot for them every 3 or 4 months, and I was the only person they're shooting with. Other than that, they were just relying off like user-generated content. So they were like, right, yeah, pitch something to us, like let us know like what you could do price-wise, put a few options together. So that's something that me and Cameron were chatting about before we jumped on the podcast. So I need to essentially put a few options together and just see if they take the bite on the package. And because I would happily shoot for them more regularly, like if it means that I can get money coming in more regularly. I like the client, I like what they're about. It's kind of I enjoy the industry and the people, so you know it benefits them. I literally said to the client, I was like, it benefits you, benefits me. It's like a, you know, it's a win-win either side. So that's like a real life example, and it's something that I just need to like follow through with now.
I don't like retaining clients.
Why don't you like retaining clients? That's interesting.
I think it's good when you're first getting started, or like if you're wanting some regular income just on a regular basis. It allows for you to scale, but it also allows for you to. It's like it allows for you to scale, but it allows for you to sort of take more risks because you've got this kind of easy income coming in.
Yeah.
However, what I found is that it also kind of boxes you in, because having different clients is what allows you to push sort of like the boundaries of what's possible in terms of a project, but also in terms of price and all these other things.
Can I argue with you? Can I debate with you?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I hear what you're saying, but so say I've got £2,000 worth of monthly retainers coming in every month, and then I'm like, cool, like my living's paid for. Yep. In my free time, I can then push to create new things, and I've got the time to do it because I know that the money's coming in, and I'm like, then I can be like, anything else that comes in is extra, and then I can use my free time to do a personal project that pushes in the direction that I want to go work-wise.
I actually agree with that. I think it's good just not have every client as a retainer. If anything, you want like one or two. Which covers like
your living costs.
Yeah. You just also reminded me. So what I used to do, I used to have a retainer client, and I used to make sure that the work that I did for this retainer client could be done in one day on a Sunday. And that way I had the next 6 days of the week to just do anything else.
Yeah.
So we would talk about this outside where we do it a little bit differently, where sometimes you'll do it off like your day rate or
you
like
do
the
off
amount of shoot
deliverables,
days,
don't you?
whereas I prefer to base it more off deliverables. But I mean, it depends if you're like a video editor or if you're actually shooting on set as well, because it makes it a lot easier if you're a video editor, I think, because
here's one video, here's two videos, here's like... Just, that's you're delivering a certain thing.
Yeah, and you also don't need to move or do it, and the time's flexible, whereas if it's shoot days...
You need to be there on set.
Yeah, and also if you've done it for 4 days and they only shoot for 2 days, they might want some of the money back.
Yeah.
So you need to price it. I don't know, like there's different ways of doing things.
Yeah.
But yeah, retainer clients are good, I guess.
If, like me, you're trying to save money at the moment, then it's good to have some consistent income, and anything else is extra, and you could be a bit more like diligent with your money. If you've got enough money saved and you've got an emergency fund, you've got a rainy day fund, you can be then like, right, I'm going to spend the next 2-3 months creating exactly what I want with the clients that I want, and not worry about like shooting stuff that's not pushing you forward. Okay, let's move on to dealing with tricky clients. So I think we've both got some experiences, and I don't know, let's touch on them last, personal experiences, but I got a few scenarios that I want to run by for both of us, and how we would deal with those scenarios. So what would you do if a client was late paying you? For example, you know, I don't know about you, but I usually invoice 30-day period, and they need to pay within 30 days. It's pretty standard in the UK. And elsewhere, I think. I don't know if it's longer. I know bigger businesses is 60 days sometimes. But I will invoice for 30 days. What would you do if a client hadn't paid for 60 days? So they're a month late or 2 months late. Like what would you do?
Well, if it only goes over by, say, 1 day, then everyone's human. Yeah. I guess you send them like a bit of a, like, oh, hey, just a reminder, like your invoice is overdue. And you give them a bit of leeway, especially if it's someone who's a little bit more of a Jamie's distracting me. Especially if he's speaking Zephyr. Especially if you give it more of a like it's a relationship that's, you know, got like history.
Yeah.
And you know that they usually pay on time. So it's like, okay. You don't just go straight in and you're like, fuck you.
Guns blazing, lawyers knocking at the door, like SWAT team. Yeah.
Which I would say we've all done in the past when we first started, where someone's late. And especially when I first started, I invoiced, if you was 7 days, it was you. If you took
7 days.
And if you took over 7 days, I'd be like, where's my money?
Yeah, fair.
However, if it was 31 days and just give them a bit of leeway. Also, things happen if you're working with a client that's got like a team. Then someone on their team might have been ill and they just didn't push your invoice through, which is still annoying, but it's kind of like, all right.
Yeah.
If they go over that, do you want me to?
Yeah, because your system's different to mine, so I want you to explain it.
Okay, so if you go, I have a natural invoice, not a natural invoice, an automatic reminder. If they keep going over that, then it gets increased by 10%, so there's a 10% late fee. It usually deters clients from ever. I've never had someone pay late, unless it's someone that I actually really know. Ever since I started having like the 10% late fee at the bottom, and it's actually part of like commercial act law that if you're overdue on an invoice and you are like, it's part of a thing.
So you charge 10% of the fee.
Yeah.
For how long? Sorry.
If it's just late.
You
have 30 days to pay it.
Yeah.
Already.
So you'll charge them an extra 10%.
Yeah.
And does that increase over time?
Yeah. If they're another month late, then it increases by 10% again.
Okay.
So.
And have you ever actually actioned that?
I think maybe once. Like, it doesn't happen too often where a client ends up paying late.
Yeah. But you've only ever done it once.
Yeah.
And it worked. Did they pay the extra 10%?
Yeah. I've also had it where clients will pay the invoice late. You'll chase you'll chase them for it, and you'll be like, "Oh, you're late. It's been like 2 weeks." And when they do pay it, they pay it, but they don't have the late fee on it. And then it's like, you cheeky bastards.
Do you chase them?
Yeah.
That's interesting. But so I don't charge a late fee.
Yeah. Well, you need to deter them though. That's the point.
No, I agree. And there are other people that I not personally know, but like I've seen in group chats and just the community that I know do it. And people that have had like horror stories and people just don't pay and clients disappear for months at a time. And I've actually got another story that I've just remembered about someone that just never paid half the invoice.
This is another thing as well. Make sure that you've got your contracts dialed in.
Yeah, because that's when I want to have a chat about this actually, because in terms of contracts and stuff, so I'm pretty bad with contracts. Like, I'll admit that. Like, if it's written in the email, here's the usage, here's the thing, then to me it's written. So like I think you can get away with it legally, saying they've said in writing, if it's in an email, that this is what they're going to do and they haven't done it, then you have evidence to be like, you said you were going to do this. But I know obviously a contract is much more formal. But like, do you do contracts with clients then? Bigger clients?
So yeah, again, it depends on the size of the client, but also the relationship with the client. So obviously I know that regardless of the relationship with the client, you should always contract anyway. However, as an example, like I've had some clients who are... Matt, do you want to move your bottle off the table?
Yeah, I can move my bottle. I was just drinking from it.
Sorry, man. These are the things that I get distracted by. As a visual person, I see your giant bottle on the table.
Giant bottle. Carry on. You've had clients that...
If it's the end client, so if it's not like a production house you're doing a job for, or a production agency, then obviously they have the contract with the client, with their main client.
Yeah.
And then obviously anything they deal with, you're dealing with them, so it don't matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely if it's the end client that you're working with, contract to the max.
Yeah, see, I don't.
Make sure you do.
And it's something that I just never kind of have. That's why my girlfriend's a lawyer, so I can just be like, right.
Some people just have it easy. They don't.
Yeah. She can just write a letter, and then everything changes.
Okay, yeah.
But no, I hear you. Like, I think, like I say, you charge a late fee. I don't. It's probably something that I should look into. 100%. And I agree. Like, after 60 days, then you say you're going to take action, and then from there, you'd like to think it's never really got any worse. I don't think, but you just kind of have to keep pestering them, and also don't worry about being that guy. I literally emailed someone 4 times the other day. I won't go into details because it's quite a funny story, but like, I made a tip myself, but I was emailing someone like repeatedly.
You can't say I emailed someone 4 times and then straight after I made a tip of myself, because now everyone's like,
I made a tip for myself because the client had actually paid me. But I'm just going to tell the story. The client had actually paid me a long time ago. They paid way faster than they usually do, and they paid under a different business name, so it wasn't showing up on my Monzo business account. So I'm looking for their payment. I'm like, where is it? Even though there was another payment from someone else. Obviously, I just glossed over. But anyway, like, don't be scared to be persistent with the accounts team and be like, this invoice is late. Like, can you please update me? Can I please have an update? If they don't reply for 3 days, send another email. Like, at the end of the day, it's your income, it's your livelihood. You need to be paid on time. And if you don't, it's only going to stress you out. It's only going to screw with your mental health. Like, it's just stress you don't need. So I feel like you really do have to put your foot down and don't be scared to be, like, persistent with it.
Yeah, also consider that it's them that are being unprofessional by not paying the invoice on time. So you have every right.
That's all on them.
Like, yeah. So you don't, like, worrying about being unprofessional by sending them loads of emails. It's like, well, they're being unprofessional by putting you in a position where you have to do that.
Yeah, if you carried out your job correctly, you've delivered what's been delivered, especially, they're happy with it, then, like, you need to be paid on time. I mean, even if you've delivered what they said and they're not happy with it, that's a tricky one, but, like, I still think you should be paid on time. Yeah,
that's actually interesting that you just brought that up, because I know some people, they deliver the work, but they'll have it, like, password locked, or you can't download it until they've paid.
Yeah.
That doesn't work unless you're working directly with the client. If you're working with a production agency, they need those assets downloadable so that they can forward it to their client for feedback, all these things. So saying, you can't download it until you pay me, doesn't work when you're working with another production agency.
Also, you charge, I swear you've done this before, you charge for like 50, you've asked for 50% up front.
Yeah, so no matter what, no project ever starts about 50% up front. The reason why is because people need skin in the game, and if you haven't taken 50% of their money up front, then they don't take it seriously, which is why when it comes to shoot day, or they move the shoot day, and it's like, I scheduled that in for the last 2 weeks, and obviously made arrangements around the shoot because that was happening. Now you've cancelled it, and now I'm not getting paid, and you've moved it another month back. So 50% up front, it means that they're serious, it means that you're serious, and that's it basically. And a lot of people don't sort of do that, and I'm like, that's crazy.
A lot of people don't do that.
But before we move on, before we kind of jump from there, like, people always come to me and they go, no, well, I've got this client and they don't do that. And it's like, I work with, like, I would say decent sized clients, and all of them pay 50% up front. And
for me, I would be like comfortable asking that to a bigger client. But if it was a small brand, I'd feel a bit.
I've heard of situations where they'll set up, they'll be about to shoot, and like the guy who's running the production will be like with the client, and he'll say, we're not pressing the record button until you send us the 50% because we still haven't received it.
Really?
And the client has had to go out to the bank and get the money and come back. And he's like, because we've set up, but you've still not, you kept promising to pay the 50%.
Yeah.
You haven't. We're here on set.
That's wild.
I'm not shooting anything until you pay.
And walk in with a briefcase on set.
And it sounds
5 bags.
Or transfer it, whatever. I'm pretty sure he had to go out to do it.
Yeah.
But it's just like, as a client, don't put yourself in that position then.
Yeah, no.
Especially if it's part of the contract you've signed.
Yeah.
No company in the world is victim to their own accounts department. They can push it through.
They can make it happen. They can make it happen, ladies and gents.
Now, obviously, general procedure is that it doesn't happen. In terms of like, usually they can't. But exceptions can be made. And if you're asking for a shoot to happen within the next 7 days, that's an exception.
That leads me on to my next point then. So would you invoice them that 50% the minute that they've like asked to shoot with you and you've accepted the job? Are you pinging an invoice off straight away to them for 50%? Same day?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. That's
not right then and there, because I'm a busy boy. Yeah, I'm doing other stuff when that email comes in.
Okay, that's interesting. Because, like, I know you've always done it. I don't know many other people that do it. And I think, if it'd be an industry norm and everyone started doing it, then it's okay. But I suppose the biggest worry is like, well, what if that annoys the client? Like, can I get away with asking for that? You've already touched on those things, and I completely agree with what you're saying. And I think it's great that you do it. Like, but yeah, it's really interesting actually.
Yeah, one thing I would say is if you're being brought onto someone's set or you're just fulfilling a position, then usually crew invoices are paid after 30 days.
Yeah.
But if you're doing like the actual project,
because there's times before where I've worked with a big client, like one of the biggest fucking sports whatever's in the world, I'll say, big client, and I've been like, I need to pay. So I'm paying for the production in terms of like I'm paying for my assistant, I'm paying for kit, like equipment hire, and obviously my own fee. Like I'm getting paid for the whole thing, but then I've had to spend like 700 quid on my credit card up front to pay for the kit to hire it.
Yeah, that's 50% up front.
Yeah, but then I've got a cash flow problem because I've got 800 quid that's left my credit card already. So I've got to pay it within 30 days, my credit card. But then if the client's late paying me, then my credit cards, it's just a whole, but I've done that before out of my own pocket. And obviously like 100% wouldn't do that now. I'd ask for that money up front, or for the client to pay for equipment is also what I usually do instead. Like they can set up an account, they should have an account, especially a production house, and they'll hire it themselves. But there's been times where I've had to pay for kit off my own credit card before the shoot.
Yeah. That pisses me off, mate.
Yeah, I know. Honest. Yeah, and that shouldn't happen. But yeah,
obviously, I think there are scenarios where you can allow that to happen. Say like if you just want to make sure you land the project and you don't want to push things, then fine. Like I'm pretty sure if Marvel Studios came to me and was like, Cameron, can you shoot the next Spider-Man movie? It's like, I can't afford it, but I'm willing to put this cost if I can. So,
no, but that's something that big. They'd have everything on lock for you, wouldn't they? Like, yeah.
But yeah, like you should get 50% up front for that. Because even if it, say like if,
well, no, they should just be paying for the equipment.
I would rather charge them and cover the equipment in the cost that I'm charging them, so that they don't have absolute specifics on
what you're hiring and how much it costs.
Because then.
Okay, this is the other thing.
You want okay, we're getting into pricing and everything.
Yeah, let's steer away from pricing. The question I was going to ask, and it does tie into this, cancellation fees. So I don't usually charge a cancellation fee, but I've had assistants before where I've said to an assistant, look, can you pencil in this date? Can you book this date? And then it gets cancelled like 3 days before, and then my assistant's been to me was like, well, did you not get a cancellation fee?
I'm pretty sure pencil in just means placeholder.
Well, no, as in like I've told him to put it in the diary, kind of thing.
Right, okay.
Like we're meant to be doing the shoot 3 days before it gets cancelled. Like, and he's like, "Oh, like, do you not get a cancellation fee? Do you not get any like?" And I was like, "Oh no, I didn't." And I probably should have done. Yeah, and again, this comes back to contracts. Do you have a cancellation fee? Because it is annoying when something big gets booked in, and then you don't, and then they have to cancel, and then you lose out on say like $1,000's worth of money, that's like it could be a quarter of your monthly income gone just like overnight, and then that changes everything cash flow wise. And then, so do you have one? Do you think you should have one?
I do have one, but I've never needed to use it. And I think what's so annoying is, I don't want to say annoying because I love clients. I love you all, but there are some dumb as hell ones out there. No offense, and you'll have it and they'll cancel, but then they still ask for it, like ask the money back. And it's like, well, that's what the deposit is for. So you don't cancel.
Yeah, true.
And so I think that's really...
Yeah, well, if they're paying you 50% up front, they're not going to cancel.
Yeah. If they reschedule a shoot, then fair enough. But if they just want to cancel it in general, and they don't reschedule it for like another month later...
What if they cancel it, but reschedule it, but you're still booked in for that day? Would you charge a cancellation fee?
What do you mean you're still booked in for that day?
So say they come to you and they say, oh, the shoot on Friday is cancelled, but we're going to look to reschedule it. We don't know when. Are you still going to charge them a cancellation fee? It's a tough one.
I would probably say I'm going to keep all of the deposit until you've rescheduled.
Yeah. Because with you, you'd have charged 50% up front. So
yeah.
For me, if I haven't done that, then I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, well, but that's the whole point of charging 50% up front, is they've got skin in the game, so the odds of them cancelling is minimised because they've already paid for the date.
Yeah. And do you charge a 30-day period going back to that 50% up front? Are you saying this invoice has to be paid in 30 days?
No,
sooner,
it has to be paid,
7 days?
It has to be paid
upon receipt.
Yeah.
Straight away.
Yeah. So, well... Yeah, it has to be paid upon receipt, but generally it just has to be paid before the shoot comes around or before any work happens. So if you've got a shoot coming up and you need to do some pre-production like 2 days before, well, the invoice needs to be paid before the pre-production starts, otherwise we're not starting anything.
Okay, cool. So I think there's some really good info in there. By the way, that was a good 20 minutes.
Yeah, I'm starting to get vexed.
Yeah,
remembering.
Okay,
before we move on though, like you start to see these things in clients before you onboard them, and then
yeah,
also,
there's red flags.
Red flags. And then also you're able to position yourself as an expert so that they don't do stuff like that, because you make it very clear that
crystal,
like, it's just business. That's it. It's not, and the client, it's not their personal money, unless you're doing like wedding videography or photography.
Slightly different, yeah.
But even
you're doing it for
even
just
still,
a person.
it's almost like the way. It's like setting boundaries and setting like policies, and by you doing those things, you're positioning yourself as the expert, which makes the client take you seriously. Yeah. Even if you're like 16 years old, or Yeah.
Very, very interesting. Okay, so moving on to a slightly different scenario. What would you do if a client asks for changes like 10 times over, and they just want changes to the photos being made, and they keep wanting changes, or they want changes to the video again and again? I'm going to say that I presume you're like, right, you've got 2 reviews and that's it. Any more, you have to start charging extra for. I guess that's kind of how it works in the video world. Very rarely will a client come back to me and say, oh, we need this changing, or we need this changing after they receive the edits. They're usually pretty happy because they're hiring you for your way of editing and the way your images look. But if they're like, oh, can you make this a little cooler, or like a little less of a certain color or whatever, you can usually do that. But then if they keep asking again, then I'd be like, you can't keep reviewing it. I'll have to charge extra because it's extra editing time. Before I was always like, look, a few years ago or pre-COVID or whatever, I'd be like, right, 500 quid for half a day, including all editing. But this is the thing now, it's like, but then you're not saying how much editing you're doing. So it's like 500 quid for 20 edits and 1 review. And then anything more than that, then I'm going to have to charge extra. So being really specific about what they're paying for and how much it costs. And anytime it goes over that, then you can be like, right, and if you're specific with the amount of edits, say you're going to give them 20 edits. Well, when they're making the selects, they might be like, oh, I actually want 30 or 40 edits. So therefore you can be like, okay, I'm going to charge an extra £200 for editing, and you can get more money out of the client because they want more deliverables, which is completely fair. But then you're giving yourself the chance to earn more money.
Yeah, but you sound like you're pretty open to that.
I am open to it because you
charge more.
You can charge the client more.
Okay,
talk me how you do it.
If you've got multiple videos, I would send all the videos at the same time and be like, this is your first feedback round. Do feedback on all the videos, because otherwise they do feedback on one
and they'll find 1,000 things,
and they'll find it, and then you go, oh, they haven't even gotten to number 2 yet.
Yeah.
So you send them all as like a bulk.
Yeah.
Do feedback on every single one, then we'll work on all of them at the same time.
Yeah.
Send it back to you. I don't care how many revisions you have, as long as it's done by the date that we say that it's going to be deadline for.
Why do you do that approach instead?
Because this is going to sound so like contradictory, but I value time over
money.
If you say that the project is going to be done by this date, then at least I know no matter what happens, it's done, and so all the revisions and everything that's needed will happen during that time frame.
Yeah.
It does cost more if it runs over, because it's like, well, we only allowed for that timeline. Yeah. And again, it depends on the project as well. If you've shot a video and then it's like quick editing, whatever, but typically some of the projects we work on now, they take like a few weeks, maybe.
Yeah. So to make this clear, you just need to be clear to the client on how many reviews they're getting. Any more would cost more money. Yeah. If they want more, it's just gonna cost them more. So that's how you stop them trying to make hundreds of changes over and over again.
And again, make sure you send, if you're doing like 5 videos or like 20 photos, send all of the photos on all the videos at once. Don't and be like, this is your first feedback round.
Yeah.
Do all the feedback at once, because otherwise...
Well, I was about to say, let's dive in some old like experiences that we've had with like just not great clients.
Yeah.
So we're not going to name names or anything like that. Just so you guys can hear some of the things. So like, I remember when I first started out in London, I knew nothing about the industry, but I was doing some work for a client, a lot of work, and they were like, oh, we're going to pay you like an internship wage. And I probably got like 250 quid for like a month's worth of just shooting, like going probably like 3 times a week, 4 times a week, just going off and doing little like shoots.
Yeah.
And I got like 250 quid. But they convinced me, I was naive, but they convinced me that that's what I was getting and I should be on internships wage because that's what like you should get. And they also tried to pull the wool over my eyes, like, oh, you know, all of these superstars, like Odell Beckham Jr.'s photographer's only paying him like 200 quid or something like that. And I was just, obviously I didn't know any different. I didn't know any other photographers. So no, it was just, don't be blinded and don't let someone pull the wool over your eyes. They knew that I didn't know the industry. So like, I think it was just easy for them. And I get it, right? You have to do a lot of shoots for free. So let's just clear that up. And you have to put in a lot of work to get to where you want to be. Agreed. But yeah, so that was just and it was all, the client would be like, oh, you need to be here in an hour and shoot this.
Oh god.
Mate, it was the most anxiety I've ever had. Because like I'd just be chilling with like a friend and they'd be like, oh yeah, you need to be here in 2 hours, and I'm like, and you never knew when you were going to get a text. And when you see the name pop up on your phone, just like a rush of anxiety. It was horrible. So that's
so wrong. You're basically on call.
Yeah, it was like being a bloody paramedic. I know there's nothing like being a paramedic, but I don't know. Like it was just, it just wasn't very nice.
Yeah,
I don't even think paramedics are on call, so that's irrelevant as well. More like a doctor or a surgeon. It's probably more accurate. I don't know. And then another client is a client that was a Spanish client, and they asked me to shoot some trainers in London. I just got a couple of mates to model for me. And they paid one of the invoices and they didn't pay the second invoice. And it was like 650 quid. And they literally just disappeared into thin air. And I chased them, obviously, chased them. But it got to the point where it was like, cool, I'm young, I don't know what I'm doing. Do I want to get in a legal battle with some random Spanish, do you know what I mean, like footwear brand? So I just let it slide.
Yeah.
But yeah, like losing out on 650 quid, yeah, it wasn't fun.
Yeah, but you definitely learn from it, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And there'll be people out there that have stories that they've lost out on a lot more, or they've gone down the legal route and it's cost money because that's not cheap either. Yeah.
And time and stress. And you actually just reminded me of something similar happening to me. So I'm not going to name who it is because they're quite a famous person now.
Okay.
But I did a shoot.
You have to tell me after the show.
Yeah.
I'm curious, yeah.
I did a shoot and it was, say like, I can't, like evening.
Yeah.
New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Overnight till
God.
8:30 in the morning.
What?
I edited the video fully.
Yeah.
The replies were kind of like here and there, like whatever. They were perfectly happy with the video.
Right.
And then like 3 months later, they were like, it's not really what we're looking for. I was going to get...
Did they use the video?
No, because I watermarked it when I sent it to them.
Nice.
But they were fine with the video. So I did the overnight shoot.
On
like
New
all
Year's
the
Eve,
editing work.
when you could have been with your friends and family.
They offered to pay me half. And I just thought, that shit.
Right.
I'd rather have nothing. So I just...
What?
So I just said, well, no, because it's principle. Because it's like, I'm not letting you pay me half.
So they would have got the video for 250 quid.
Basically.
Yeah.
And it was like, the shoot itself was worth more than that. So
yeah.
I said, okay, no worries. I said, don't worry about it. I said, please keep the money. I said, apologies for any, like miscommunication with like the direction of the video.
Yeah.
We can just leave it like it's no worries. And that was it. Really, I did want to kill them.
Yeah, fair. That's grim, man. Especially after 3 months. So that's what I mean. That's a late invoice in itself.
Mate, the video took me so long to edit as well. Like,
and the fact that like the rate should have been way higher because it's New Year's Eve, because it's an overnight shoot, because you should have been with your friends and family. Yeah, well, instead I presume you were videoing some party or something like that. Like, yeah. Well, the unfortunate thing was as well is that I actually knew this person years ago before they were thinking. Okay. So and immediately having already like a little bit of like a friendship with them. Yeah. You just didn't really think that, but obviously over the course of time, fame changes people. Folks. They became a bit of a thingy. So interesting. Okay. Yeah, it's not fun. Yeah, I'll show you the video afterwards. And, no, I can't wait to see. But the visuals on it are. I really like the visuals. Yeah, I'm intrigued to hear who this is about. Any other personal stories that you want to share? When I was first starting, talking like first month of being in London. I signed up to this website called Bidvine. Right.
which is like where you have like a profile and you've bid for projects,
Oh, okay.
and you pay for like tokens or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought I'd try it out just because, again,
not?
trying out a bunch of different stuff when you first start. And I had this guy reach out for a music video, and it was only like 100 quid because, again, first starting, didn't know anything. It was August or July, and he said he didn't want it to start till October, so he sent me an SD card in the post with his footage on. And then like 2 weeks later, he's like messaging me on WhatsApp, and he's like, "You haven't even downloaded it." And like, he's like, "I want it back. Like, I want my deposit back." All these, because he paid like 50 quid up front.
Yeah.
I was so confused. So I was being really professional. I was just like, I thought we discussed that you didn't want to start it till October. Obviously, I'm not going to download it.
Yeah.
Until it's time to start it. And he was a bit more of like gangster rapper kind of didn't know whether I was going to get stabbed kind of thing. So, and obviously because he sent the SD card to where I was living as well, I was like,
he knew your
that
address.
was a bit of a mistake. Yeah. So I was like, I just said, okay. And obviously you don't want to work with people like that. So I just thought, I can give you a refund, man, if you want. No worries. Do
you know what really annoys me? You just reminded me about WeTransfers. So when you send send the photos to a client, and it's got a week or 2 week expiry date on
you can turn
transfer. Can you?
Yeah, you can turn that off.
On WeTransfer Pro or normal?
Oh, I don't know actually. Have you got Pro?
No.
Oh, sorry, you're a photographer. That's fine.
So I don't need more than 2 gigs of transfers.
God, yeah.
But so when you send a client the images and they haven't downloaded it for a week or 2 weeks or whatever it is, I think it's a week now. Even so, right? And then I get a message 2 weeks later saying, can you send the photos again? I forgot, like I haven't downloaded them in the transfer or like, or whatever. And I'm just like, mate, like you've had them for 2 weeks.
So relatable.
Like, just download them and save them somewhere.
Yeah.
Or like they'll preview them in WeTransfer, then and be like, I'm really happy, love these class, and they haven't downloaded them, or they've downloaded them onto the computer and then they've deleted them and then haven't saved them somewhere else or something like that. Yeah. It's just like, oh god, sort your shit out.
I did similar to that. I did also used to run into it all the time where a client wouldn't have enough hard drive space to download what I've sent them.
Quite a lot, yeah.
And that's also
they
like
can't download it onto
you are
computer.
working at a
it's
company.
harder for you because you're dealing with much like bigger.
Yeah, but even if it's just like a video, for example, like or like a client would hire you to do a shoot, and then you would send them the footage and they wouldn't download it.
Yeah.
And then they'd ask you to download, like later on, send it again because they couldn't download it at the time. And it's like, you guys are working at like a production agency. Like, how do you not have enough space to download this? Anyway, just little speed bumps along the way in terms of clients. All of this stuff doesn't, I don't know if it still happens, but all of the major stuff I mentioned doesn't happen anymore. And it's not happened for years.
That makes sense. We learn. Interesting. Right. Well, I think there's been so many good points there. So many good points. And hopefully you guys watching and listening might have found that really, really helpful. If there's any questions as well, drop them below if you're watching on YouTube and we'll happily get back to you. But some really good knowledge bombs in there, mate.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to go back into the office now and just be like pissed off all day.
We don't let them get the better of us.
No,
we don't let tricky clients get the better of us.
No, I'm only joking.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, thanks for listening to this episode. I've been your co-host, Matt Pearson.
Good talk, Matt. Thank you.
Sweet. See you later, guys.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to leave a rating on whatever platform you're listening to the podcast on. If you're watching on YouTube, then make sure to hit the subscribe button and leave a comment with any of the topics that you want us to talk about in the future. If you want to see more, click one of these episodes wherever it's popping up, and I hope you enjoy, and see you next time.